Good morning, everybody. Betting for Breakfast live, powered by the Sharp app. Drumheller, Gleckner, Week 9 college football bets. It's Week 9 already, Dave. Halloween. It looks like we're joined by the Macho Man. He's got his costume ready. How you feeling, brother?
Oh, yeah. Feeling good, Dave. I can't wait. This ticket is just so big, stacked, packed. I had to break out the Macho Man for today. I'm excited. College football Saturday. This, to me, probably the best Saturday of the year. We had some great matchups, some power matchups early in the year, but how deep this is and how much this means to teams. We're getting off bye weeks now. It's a great card. I'm pumped to go through it with you this week, and let's get some dubs.
Absolutely. Let's get the belt this week. Let's get the belt. Nothing but winners lined up. Listen, guys, I got 6 plays lined up over at the Sharp app. If you are not part of the Discord, if you are not part of the VIP program, the links are in the description. Come join the family. Get the winners. Huge week last week. 3-2. Profitable week. That's what we like to do. Brick by brick. Every week we get those wins. If we stay in the green at the end, it's going to be a good season. So just to recap a little bit of last week, we were on Pitt +3. Didn't need the +3, but it's always nice to get a great number. That one hit. Wake Forest on that one as well. Our guy Sammy Hartman, Dave, he hung 70 on Army. Cashed that one in easy. And then San Diego State held on late against Air Force. Was able to cash that one in. Had two losses that really, Dave, they're sticking with me right now. I'm still not happy about it. Temple lets up 400 yards rushing off a bye week, and they lose to South Florida. It's just a terrible bet there made by me. Not going to hit them all. But, the other one I lost was NC State and Miami. Miami's been a really sticky team. I lost to them, betting against Miami the last 2 weeks against UNC and NC State last week. So I'm going to leave them alone. NC State really let me down. 3 for 14 on third downs against a Miami defense that was 119th in the nation on third down. So did not like that at all. But Dave, how'd we make out last week?
2-2.
Nice.
One, and you can almost, give a 3-2 because I did hand out the over to our boy, Arroyo on that Fresno game that went 34-32, well over the number. But we'll take 2-2 on the official plays. Yeah, Syracuse huge, and Syracuse has been big all year for me. Been talking about them. I think you have a lot of value on them today as well. I got kind of stuck in the Air Force. Good pick by you, San Diego State. But closing out the night with Oregon State's win was big. They upset Utah. Yeah, they rolled too. They were down 14-0 and then just put it on full throttle and were able to roll through Utah. Big win for Oregon State. That Pac-12 is an absolute circus.
It's crazy. Yeah. You never know. Like I talked about it last week. Like you might as well flip a coin in these Pac-12 night games, man, because once that sun goes down, you never know what you're going to get.
No,
you never know what you're going to get with these teams, man.
You don't. And so, still solid, still profitable, 24-13-1 on the year. Looking, 1-2-2-2. Let's get some big wins this week. Let's get a good winning ticket. That's what I'm looking forward to today.
I love it. Tremendous card. The main game we're going to be talking about, we got a girl, Lexi, behind the scenes. We're going to bring her on a little bit later. Michigan State, just a real exciting game. But we got all our best bets lined up. We got everything cooking today, and it is a tremendous card. And now that we're deep into the season, Dave, I feel like we really have a good understanding of what these teams are. Like we are well past the mark of where it's, we're trying to figure out, coaching changes and, returning production and things like that. We have enough data now to where we can really see who these teams are.
Yeah, the Tigers aren't going to change their stripes this late. And it's just true. Like the only way you're really going to see a big difference in where you handicap is if you see a change in starters, right? That could flip some different things for certain teams. But otherwise, if you're sticking with a consistent model here and consistent, starters, you're probably, handicap the way you see it, the way the stats have laid out so far today. We're 2 months into the season. If a team's really bad at stopping the run, I don't think anybody's going to come in and really stop that. So scheme might, but still, you can only scheme it so much. So, yeah, you're right. A lot of what is what you see. Clemson, bad. You know it. Will they finally cover one? I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, it is what it is, man. Clemson has been screaming at people all season.
Yeah.
We're not that good. And, the market very, very slow
0-7.
to adjust on them. And listen, guys, everybody tuning in, we appreciate you guys tuning in. Make sure you drop us your best bets in the comments, right? We want your best bets. We'll make a little bit of money off you this weekend as well. So give us your plays. You got any questions, hit us up in the comments. Lexi will bring them up and we'll talk about them for sure. But Dave, let's get into the picks, man. Let's do it. Let's start this thing off. And, you got a game that you targeted. Big 12, Baylor, -2.5, home off a bye after wrecking BYU, 38-24. Now hosting Sark and the Texas Longhorns, a team that I was very big on early in the season. How do you see this one playing out, my man?
Yeah, it's kind of simple to me. And I this is a point when you're just trying to lay out the stats and see which side, how this game's going to play out, really. I know I had WVU at Baylor a few weeks ago. They got smashed. But I also had OK State against Baylor. And then I tried to look at those two games, and I said, what's the difference? And really, it was matchups. In the style of matchups, WVU could not stop the run. That's what Baylor likes to do. Well, welcome, Texas. One of the worst rush defenses in the entire country. And here's a key stat for you. Texas is 4-0 when holding teams to under 200 yards rushing. They're 0-3 when teams get over 200 yards rushing. It's as simple as that. We know Bijan Robinson on the other side is going to get his. Even though Baylor has a very strong rush defense, he's going to get his. There's going to be points scored. But in the end, can Texas stop the run? We saw it late against Oklahoma.
Oh. They
ran the ball on, trying to get in field goal range and ran it for a touchdown from 38 yards out. This team cannot stop, and their top leading tackler is questionable today. Linebacker DeMarvion Overshawn. He might play, might not. We're seeing both results. That could be a huge factor in a game that's 2.5, 3 in most markets. I just really love Baylor's matchup against Texas as far as the rushing attack goes. They're the top team in the Big 12 in rushing. They average 219 yards rushing per game. And surprising, Abram Smith, the running back out of Baylor, 10 TDs, ties Bijan for second in the league, but he actually has the most yards per carry in the conference. And you're talking about Breece Hall, you're talking about Bijan Robinson. This guy's right there. He's 1C to them. And I think he has an exciting big day. Bohannon, the quarterback, look, he's not going to win games for you, but he's not going to lose them. One interception the entire year. To me, this is all about matchups, and I just think Baylor matches up very, very well against Texas. Texas, like you said, coming off a bye as well, but 2 straight losses. They've only outscored one team in the second half of the entire season. That was Texas Tech. I think Sark, they came out firing. They beat Louisiana, and it looked good, right? Since then, it's been mixed results. I think he's really still trying to figure out what he has there. And but I think Baylor knows what they have. I'll take the Baylor Bears. Big game down in Waco. Sellout, which is rare for some of those fans. It's going to be loud. It's going to be noisy. It's a big one. Give me the Bears -2.5.
Yeah, it all makes sense. I mean, that Texas defense, a bunch of matadors, man. Teams are just trying to get in field goal range, run out the clock, and they end up in the end zone. Really a lot of work Sark has to do on that side of the ball, right? We knew what he could do offensively. We knew he would, get that Texas offense rolling eventually, but that defense is just problematic, man. And Baylor's a nice surprise this year. They're one of the surprises, I think, in college football. I did not have them pegged for the season that they would have, to be honest with you. Didn't know what to expect. But I feel like, you spoke about Bohannon, the quarterback. I feel like he gets a little bit better each week. So they're going to be an interesting team to watch down the stretch. Big 12, outside of Oklahoma is wide open as well.
Let me give you one last thing on Texas, and this is how disappointing they are. They're 127 out of 129 D1 teams in the nation in power success rate defensively. Now, what that means is if you're third and fourth, they're 2 or less, that's your conversion rate. And I hate to say it, but that just screams soft, right? And we're talking about bad teams, and they're 127th. UMass, all those trash. They're 127th. They can't stop anybody when you line up and just tell them it's coming. And I think Baylor's going to do that today.
Yeah, how do you get teams off the field? How do you get teams off the field if you can't convert, if they can just run right at you on 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3? You know what I mean? These short, that's a whole offensive philosophy, is to get in those manageable situations in 3rd down. And you have nothing, you're not man enough. You don't have the beef up front to stop those plays, man. And that's it's tough, man. I think Baylor goes right at them. I think Baylor being at home, they're starting to play with a lot of confidence now.
Yep, beat Iowa State. They have a shot. I mean,
listen, talking about running the ball, I think we're going to see a lot of running the ball today in our featured game of the week. East Lansing, people cannot wait for this matchup. And Dave, this is a game that we talked about, at the look ahead line. We talked about it during the week. Just, what is the right side on this game? Michigan and Michigan State, facing off today in East Lansing in a huge game for both programs. Can't wait. I saw all the clips coming into the game. They're going to have Michigan fans in East Lansing. They're trying to, crash the party. And Mel Tucker's done a tremendous job with Michigan State so far this season. I think what he's done has been incredible. But I get the feeling that the market, with this game being lined at -4 right now, money coming in on Michigan, people are wondering if maybe this is where the road ends.
Yeah, it's crazy. We talked about this when it opened up. What did we see it at? I saw it at 2 last Saturday, but that was just a quick preview of the market. I think we saw it kind of really settling around 3 on Sunday, was it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
yep.
And now we were texting, where is this going to fall? We saw 3.5 by Tuesday. I'm surprised it got to 4 and stayed at 4. Like, I really thought money was going to come in on Michigan State. I just had this feeling that, sharps were just going to let this thing, stop at 3.5 and pound it. But now I guess I'm seeing sharp money in on Michigan, and rightfully so. This is a coin flip. It's 2 contrasting styles once again. You have 2 quarterbacks that, who would you take in a big game? And, Peyton Thornton, he's been very solid, better than on the other side of the ball with Michigan. What's that? Cade McNamara. And but then the running games, they're both very excellent. Michigan's probably a little bit more well-balanced in the running game with a 2-headed attack versus Kenneth Walker just going at it for Michigan State. The defenses, both great. Even though Michigan State's a little misleading. They're letting up over 400 yards per game. They're just not letting the points on the scoreboard. So it's really to me, it's an even matchup. I was a little surprised it got to 4.
Yeah, and it's, to be honest, like when it came up, and here's the numbers here, we can look at them, Dave. Michigan State opened up at -2.5. We seen it get pushed to 4, and I immediately thought it would get bought back down to -2. That was kind of what I was waiting for. I was waiting for it to come back down, and I'm like, if it does, I might jump on Michigan, but it hasn't. And you can look at these numbers right here. You can see how even these teams are. Against the spread, 6-1, 5-1-1. Over under both 3 and 4, but look at yards per play and just the net explosive plays, Dave. It's almost like their net is the exact the same for yards per play, and their net explosives +10, +9, turnover margin very similar. So when you look at this matchup, this is head on head, man. These are 2 teams that are built the same. They're built to win the same, and the better team's going to end up on top. I think it brings even more excitement that it's actually, the perceived better team, Michigan, has to win this game on the road.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering, is it really going to – I think this game's just going to come down to the quarterback and who doesn't make mistakes.
Yeah, and that's how both teams have kind of played, especially Michigan, right? I think what McNamara threw for about 120 last week against Northwestern, 129 on 20 of 27. It was complete check down city, just dink and dunk. But, that's what won them the game, right? They know how to manage his game. They know his strengths. At the beginning of the year, I really thought Michigan was going to go with that tech transfer, Alec Bowman. Now he's been dinged up and injured, but I just thought that would have brought that bigger dynamic. And they lost Ronnie Bell to the ACL surgery, their best receiver early in the season. So this is what they're dealt with. This is what they have to do, and it works for them. But it's worked against competition. They've beaten some decent teams, Wisconsin, but they haven't seen teams that could really maybe put the points up. I think Michigan State might be able to put some points up today. So McNamara will have to make plays.
Yeah, and that's the key, right? So when you look at Michigan State and their defense, secondary, very tough, very physical, right? So, if McNamara can't get the ball down the field and it is check down city and he has to do everything within 5-10, yards of line of scrimmage, there could be some challenges there. Like, I think he's going to have to step up if they're going to win this game from Michigan. And then on the other side, Peyton Thorne, I just think that he's kind of, I don't know if he's regressing, but I don't feel like he's, a strength there. Yeah. Like there's really not much. They have, they have great wide receivers. They have good weapons, but can he get them the ball against, Aiden Hutchinson and that pass rush, that Michigan defense, which has really, I think, played above expectations for what people were expected from them coming into the season. McDonald doing a tremendous job on that side.
Yeah, I agree. But here's where I think his worst game was last week or 2 weeks ago at Indiana. They had their bye week. Don't you got to kind of throw that out as a little bit of a look ahead? I'm trying to that was their worst game. They had to really hold on. They only had one touchdown in the first half, and I think it was a defensive fumble recovery. And we know how bad Indiana is. We had them pegged on the under before the season. I will tell you, I didn't have them this bad, but they're bad, right? And that I think they pushed the spread on that game. They might have eventually just got over the number, depending where you got it. But I'm trying to throw that one out in my mind for Peyton Thorne. But I'm with you. I think he's more flatlined, that he has really taken the team to the next step. And they're winning sort of like Michigan is.
Yeah.
Just because
Kenneth Walker.
Kenneth Walker.
Yeah, it's really Kenneth Walker against, Blake Corum. Like, that's really, what this matchup is. And it's which quarterback is not going to mess it up, right? Which quarterback can stay out of the way and, not get in trouble. But let's bring on Lexi, our resident Michigan Wolverines fan. Bring her into the party. I know she's excited for today. Huge game for Jim Harbaugh, and the legend of Jim Harbaugh at Michigan, has a history of not being able to win these games. How confident are you, Lexi, coming in to today's matchup against Michigan State?
I've learned my lesson over the years of trying to be confident playing against Michigan State. We've been the better, team throughout the years, and they come in with grit, with that chip on their shoulder. That's what they do, So I am never confident into this game. I'm super anxious. Was going to head down to East Lansing, then thought maybe it's a better idea just to watch this one at home because it's going to have the nerves through the roof.
How crazy is it at these games? Like, give us a little bit of insight just on how, I saw, there's a ton of Michigan fans there outside waiting. It's going to be, they were, I think Portnoy, tweeted out, hashtag home team. And it was all these Michigan people there. So do we expect to see kind of like a mixed crowd when we're in there?
Yeah, we normally do. Even when it's Ann Arbor, you got a lot of, we're all right down the road from each other. So it's just, it's what makes the even more intense because it's just so populated with both fan bases and a lot of crap talking going on. And it's
how close? How close are they? Like an hour, 2 hours?
No, about 45 minutes, less than an hour for sure. Yeah, it's very close. Right, this weekend I'm in between, so I'm halfway between Ann Arbor and East Lansing.
Nice, because close out here in Jersey and Philly is half hour, 45 minutes. Close out in the Midwest is 4 hours. So I never know,
Yeah, for sure. It's gonna be a great game.
Yeah, it's exciting. The one thing I wanted to take away. Did you see Taylor Lewan's comments, the offensive tackle from Tennessee Titans? Do you think that helps or hurts a team like Michigan? He was very adamant that he hates Michigan State and they're going to kill them this weekend. Little does he know he was 1-4 against them in his career. But I'm just curious, does that add the chalkboard material for Michigan State, or does it really give Harbaugh that additional kind of firepower? Show, look, our brethren in the NFL, they're really pulling for us.
Yeah, so I mean, we learned our lesson about the little brother comment back when Mike Hart in 2007. So anytime a player says anything like that, especially someone who's not even part of the program, it's like, stop giving the other guys material. Like I said, Michigan State runs off of disrespect. That is what that program uses to do what it's done, and they've done an incredible job so far. I mean, they've done. They've had a few years off, but I mean, they got to the playoffs, you know what I mean? So that's what they run on. So I just cringe at that video because it's like, you were 1-4. Why are you saying this? You're just giving the other guys material to beat the guys in the field. So yeah, I just kind of shrug it off because I'm not huge fans.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah, I could definitely understand the players got to be like, listen, just let us handle it. Let us handle our business. Leave this alone. Leave this to us. I expect a very low scoring game in this one, Lexi. I expect it really to be a game where both teams try and establish the run, try and grit it out. Like, I think the under at 50.5 is probably the best bet on the board. Whether I would bet Michigan at the -4, if I had to choose a side, I probably would. But I think the under is probably the best play on the board here. Do you see it, playing out the same way? Or do you think we could see Harbaugh maybe try and get aggressive early, on the road, try and make some plays to quiet down that East Lansing crowd?
Yeah, I mean, I will say that Jim Harbaugh has never lost a game in East Lansing as a player or a coach. So I'm going to throw that out there. Yeah. And another crazy stat that I found today was out of the 9 times that we've played each other and ranked in the top 25, the road team has won 8 times out of 9. Now that's like back Michigan State and Michigan. So I'm really I don't know how he's going to approach this. I think he's going to be more serious about it because I think this is probably one of the biggest games, if not the biggest of his career. He knows that he's on watch, from these last few years he's produced. So I think he's going to be cautious, but Harbaugh's been different this year. No more khakis. You got the 2016 anger and hype on the side. I'm loving to see it. And now it's just the time to walk the walk. You're doing all this. Dave mentioned earlier that neither team's really played anybody with really good talent. Like I think throughout. So this is going to be the biggest game for both teams so far this season.
Yeah, and it's awesome. It's today, this late in the season. These 2 teams undefeated. It's really cool. I love it.
Noon, right? Is this at noon?
Yeah,
Right?
Thank God it's at noon.
Love it, man.
I was like,
love
it won't be a night game.
Fired up. Yeah, right. Because then you sit around anxious all day, right? It's like night. Yeah. You're sitting around. You're anxious all day, and you're just, let's just rip off the Band-Aid at noon. We'll get it over. Let's get these running games going. Rev up the engines. Nationally, Lexi, everybody who's picking Michigan State, it's almost like the first words out of their mouth are Cade McNamara, right? And it's always like, well, Cade McNamara, we're not sure he's going to be able to get it done. Michigan State, very physical cornerbacks. McNamara hasn't demonstrated the ability to throw the ball down the field. If he struggles in this game, like, do you think week early and they get down early? Like, do you think we could see a change? Like, do you think there's more to McNamara than the national audience sees, and he has the ability to show that today? Like, where are you at with Cade McNamara as a quarterback?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's a great quarterback, as in terms of like game management, controlling everything, not messing up. I mean, he had that one pick, but I mean, he's just not a guy that turns over the ball. Now, I've said this before, that's great and all, but is that going to win you the big games that you need to? I'm a fan of JJ. When he comes out into the field, it's electric. I think that if we do get down, Harbaugh's, been the point where he's not going to be stubborn, I think, in certain areas. And I'm hoping that this is one of those areas that, you need to make the change. If you get down quick, you can get down quick fast if you don't, make an adjustment. So I think that with how much he's been bringing JJ in certain times of the game, that he'll be smart with that. And I'm hoping so. But I hope Cade comes out and shows everyone wrong, including me. I mean, because I am doubting it. Are you capable of doing this? I hope he just comes out and makes it rain, and we're just all like sitting back, like, okay, now we understand.
Yeah, because
I'm hoping that, but it's going to be
I definitely feel like he's getting a lot of smoke nationally. Like, people are just like, I don't know about this Cade McNamara. It's a problem. And that's the way, that's why I kind of like Michigan in this matchup, because, people talk about Cade McNamara, but they're forgetting about the quarterback on the other side. Like, this guy could hardly beat out Russo, the kid from Temple. And Dave, we know Temple, Russo's garbage.
I thought Russo was starting. I thought at the beginning of the year he was going to start. Yeah.
Well, that was the big thing week 1, because remember, I think was it Northwestern that they trounced?
They did.
They won 1,000-0. Like, Walker ran for 700 yards, and everybody didn't know who the quarterback was going to be. So everyone's trying to bet the game. They only know who the quarterback is, and that just kind of tells you, where Peyton Thorne is now. I think he's had a couple nice games. You know what I mean? But I think you're starting to see him regress a little bit. Kind of, fall into what we expected coming in. And Dave, tell me how you see this, but I see this again as a game where it's going to come down to turnovers. And even though McNamara doesn't have, all the big 40-yard, explosive plays down the field, as Lexi mentioned, he has been very good at protecting the football, which I think is going to be huge today.
Yeah. All right. So real quick, we've been getting a few questions from our boy Cease about Penn State, Ohio State. We are getting into that for sure. So we'll get there. Got a couple angles on that. But yes, I agree. Like the better team, right? More rounded, more talent is Michigan. And I think if you had someone that was really going to not be able to meet these expectations, this big stage today, it is Peyton Thorne. And he does concern me. I will tell you, I really like Michigan State in this matchup. I was prepared to bet them all week. I think they're 10-4 in the last 14 matchups. They won last year in Ann Arbor. They seem to get up for this. But what really scares me is what I opened this with. I can't believe it stayed at 4, and it's really starting to make me think about this one a little more. And I may just stay away, enjoy it, have one for Lexi, because there's just so many different things that go on. I think if the turnovers are equal, I don't love Harbaugh in close games. I think Michigan State has been good in close games this year. I think they can pull it off. But like you said, Thorne, I just don't know. At least with McNamara, I know I'm going to get 120 on 27 attempts. Like it's just going to be like simple, dink and dunk. He did against Wisconsin. As long as they do that enough, they'll pull away at that.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
All right, so let's do score predictions real quick before we get back to our picks. Dave, I'm going to lead off with you. I feel like you're gonna make Sparty proud here. Drop the bomb.
I guess I'm going to have to. I'll go 24-21. I'm just a Mel Tucker guy. Like I said, I think, you got two solid offenses, like we said earlier, but two very good defenses. The running game, they're just going to have to really – each team's just going to have to stay patient. And I stress that, and I think they know it. They're going to have to find their creases. And when they can, get those big chunk plays. I mean, Michigan, they're just solid defensively. Last week, they let up 233 yards to Northwestern. One was on a 75-yard play. Other than that, it was like 150 the whole game. So you're going to have to take your time. But I just think the energy, the momentum, the hate, the disrespect, that all fuels Michigan State. Lexi, I'm cheering for you. But if my gut tells me anything, that's where I'm leaning. 24-21 Sparty.
Yeah, I'm really close to you there. Because I'm at 27-21 Michigan. So I think it's going to be 24-21, and then we're going to get some last-minute field goal just to kind of seal the deal. I'm praying, please, for the football guys. Give me that win.
I hope.
I love it. I love it. I'm going to be the tiebreaker here, and I'm going with the Wolverines. 19-10. I think Michigan wins this one. This is going to be an ugly one, but all three of us do agree this is an under. 50.5, way too high of a number. This is going to be an under. So that is our best bet as a trio. But Lexi, good luck today with your Wolverines. Hopefully they continue their winning. I think, the biggest key to Michigan this season and the big difference between Michigan, Harbaugh, these other years might not be the khakis, but I think it's this show right here. Betting for breakfast has been great luck for the Michigan Wolverines. So let's hope
get rid of that defensive coordinator.
Yeah, Mike McDonald, have faith.
Yeah, I think that's
old
the
man
number
Tom
one.
Brown.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you,
All
Lexi.
right, love
good luck.
it.
I am
Lexi,
definitely cheering for you
today.
Thanks.
Perfect. Now let's get back to the action, Dave, because we got picks to give the people. Let's see if we can move. There we go. Get Lexi out of there. Oh, she came back on. Here we are, back in action. Sorry about that, everybody. But let's get into our picks, Dave. We got plenty of picks to reel off here. We have about 10, 15 minutes before we got to roll. Let's fire them off. I'm going to let you start with another pick. We got a couple to get through, and that's going to be Minnesota on the road at Northwestern. The Northwestern team we just talked about really got spanked by both Michigan and Michigan State this season. They just got beat up by Michigan last week. Catching 7 against Minnesota on the road here. How do you see this one playing out?
Yeah, Minnesota's impressive. Let's just lay it on the line. Earlier this season, they also Ohio State in that weird Thursday night game. Star running back Mohammed Ibrahim went down with that Achilles or something popped in. They were really hanging in that game, and then that took a lot of the momentum out. Then they lose to Bowling Green. Bowling Green is terrible at home, and it's just. it looked bad. But here we go. The row the boat, 5 in a row. PJ Fleck really just, he's a good coach. I got to give it to him. I think he's a lot of pump and stance sometimes, but this year he's really impressed me. He even lost another running back, Trey Pitts, later in the season, and is just going with this 3-headed, pulling guys off the streets of Minnesota attack. And he's just letting it roll, and it works. And last week it worked really well again against Maryland as they rolled up over 300 yards rushing. And I think they're in first place now on their side of the Big Ten. They're looking good. And you get to Northwestern. Now, Northwestern's one strength this year is they're 3-1 at home. So they have played some teams solid at home. But we know when they've been on the road, I think Nebraska beat them by 1,000. You saw what Michigan did to them last week, 33-7. It hasn't been good. And I think that's the Northwestern we'll see today. Some key stats that I'm really looking at. Northwestern is 0-4 against the spread after giving up 450 yards the previous week. We talked about it earlier. They let up 457 versus Michigan. So really, that's a factor. Now, Minnesota, on the other hand, they're 5-0 ATS in the last 5 road games. They're 15-5-1 in their last 21 Big Ten games. This team gets up for these games. I think they love this last man or next man up mentality. Northwestern is the worst rushing defense in the Big Ten. It's a common theme of what I'm looking at today. And Minnesota runs it, as we talked about earlier last week, with over 300-plus yards with that 3-headed attack of Kai Thomas, Bryce Williams, and Marquise Irving. I think they're just going to do that, keep the ball out of Tanner Rourke's hands, let him throw when he needs to. Chris Altman-Bell is back, had 100 yards receiving 2 weeks ago. I just think they have enough, and they could beat this team really bad. The 3-1 at home worries me a little bit. Northwestern does play better there, but they're terrible in the red zone.
They're just not good.
Yeah. So 124th in red zone efficiency. If they end up down there and kick field goals, it ain't going to work. I'm rolling Minnesota. The Gophers -7. You might even find 6.5 in some markets. It open at 7.5. Keep an eye if you can get that extra half.
Yeah, every time I see Minnesota, I think, remember we went to see the Vikings and Eagles like 2 years ago, and we went to that sports bar. Remember we met those English guys? They were super into betting. They were betting like everything on the card.
Yeah.
They were crazy. I forget their names, dude, but they were hilarious. But that was wild. It was a wild experience because we're in Minnesota. There are Minnesota college football fans. There was Wisconsin fans there. It was, really like a melting pot of all those regional college football programs. It was a pretty cool experience.
Oh, it was awesome. And then you really got the flavor of how Minnesota and Nebraska kind of hated each other. By the way, their names were Neil and Min.
Min. Yeah. They were from like England or the UK or something like that. But they were 100% down on sports betting, dude. They were betting the board, man. They
were cool chaps.
Yeah, they definitely cool chaps, man. But all right, let's get into Penn State and Ohio State for our guy Cease. He wants us to talk about that one. This is a matchup, man. I'll tell you, Ohio State rounding into form. That's how I see it. CJ Stroud, I think, sneaky play on the Heisman. Travion Henderson just, gives that offense more explosion when they already have, Olave and those guys. I just think that, man, it's a lot of offense here for a Penn State team who couldn't score 9 overtimes against Illinois, right? Clifford, not the same. He's hurting. I realize that this is a big number, but you have, James Franklin sitting here trying to fight off these rumors of him going to USC. It just seems like, it might be a letdown spot for Penn State. This is a tough spot to win at.
Yeah, so I agree with you. And all the signs point to Ohio State. That's what scares me probably the most is better about this game. Convince me that Penn State can cover this number. And I'm not sure you could give me anything in this world that would convince me that, right? Like last week, they let up 350-plus rushing yards to Illinois. I mean, the once wanted defense that, kept them in games. This exciting team that took down Auburn in the whiteout let up 350-plus. And Sean Clifford, I think he passed for like 120, 130, like versus a terrible team. And they ran the ball terribly against Illinois. It looks like a mess. But with that number being so big, I lean Penn State. I'm not sure I'm confident enough to put my money on Penn State. Ohio State just hasn't played anybody since, early in the season versus Oregon. And I think they'll at least get a little of that taste in their mouth when they get a couple hits. And from my side, I would take Penn State over the 9.5 points in the first half. I think Penn State will be able to script some plays, maybe able to punch one in before Clifford starts wearing down, which could be quick, as we saw versus Iowa. So I'd punch that in. I'll probably stay away from everything else. I know you have another take on this game, so I'll leave it to you.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't take these points if I was a Penn
Yeah.
State. There's just too much going on there, with the program. And the fact that they lose that, Illinois game, that is a huge letdown because now it's almost like the season's over, right? Like now you got to get up for the biggest game of the season when you really don't have a shot at the Big Ten or anything. Because if they won out and they, found a way to kind of sneak into relevancy, you could always point to Clifford being injured for the reason for the Iowa game because that was the reason they lost that Iowa game.
Right.
And then they have a chance if we upset Ohio State, now we have momentum. All that went out the window last week. And listen, I love Clifford the way he's played this year. Shouldn't have been out in the field, but had to be out in the field because they didn't have a backup, right? They really don't have a suitable backup. So I think they're in trouble here when I look at it like Penn State, very strong secondary, right? Not strong enough to deal with Ohio State with Olave and Garrett Wilson and those guys. And that's the thing is, so now you have an area that is a strength against most other teams is not a strength in this matchup. Those guys are still going to get buried. There's going to be people, running free all over the field. I think Ohio State's rolling, man. Like I really do. And I think they continue to roll today. So, I think it's going to be a tough one. I love PSU, but not today.
No, I was going to give you a lot of credit. You've been good on PSU games, especially on this show. I think you have a very good view on both sides of PSU, whether you're taking them or against them. Should have had the Iowa game, obviously, but for the most part, you had the Auburn game. So I think this is you seeing it the other way, and I appreciate that. I think it's just such a scary number that I'm just a stay away game. But really, Ohio State can win by 30, and I would not be surprised.
Yeah, definitely. I think so too. But I'm going to get into my best bet of the game real quick, Dave, and then we're going to finish with one of yours. We talk about Clemson week in and week out. And, this is one that I gave out earlier in the week. I got the 10 with Florida State. I am very comfortable with Florida State in this spot, getting the 10 points against Clemson. Listen, I know Florida State had a rough start of the year, right? They lost to Notre Dame. They lost to Wake Forest, which a loss that looks a lot better right now. I mean, Wake Forest looks really good, especially offensively. And then they kind of, found their footing, right? Florida State. But, it's not even really – this game is not even really about Florida State for me. It's about Clemson. And what do we know about Clemson, right? Look at the games that they won. Outside of week 2 against South Carolina State, where they won 49-3, they beat Georgia Tech by 6. They lost to NC State. They beat Boston College by 6. They beat Syracuse by 3. They lost to Pitt by 10, right? Where do you see them beating anybody by margin? You don't. And I think Florida State is very comparable to a lot of those teams. They beat Syracuse. I think they're, right there with Boston College. Like, I don't think there's a huge talent gap this season between these teams. So I think 10 points is way too much for Clemson really to lay against anybody that's not South Carolina State. So I don't see any reason why this number should be so big. So I jumped on it with the Seminoles, and I'm going to take it to the bank. Very, very confident in this one.
Yeah, hey, I know, I'm glad you're taking it, so I don't have to lay my heart on the line. But the key to the resurgence has been them just giving up on the Mackenzie Milton project. I mean, let's just be honest. He was a great story, but Jordan Travis is their guy. And, the wins, Syracuse and North Carolina are those aren't cupcakes. Those are good wins. Both those games, he had over 100 yards rushing. Last week, they didn't need him to do much, had 80 yards rushing. I think if they can put up points, I mean, they're in this game, they can win it. And Clemson is just not going to wow you offensively. They just can't. They just don't have the weapons or tools. They're still good defensively. But as you saw last week, you can wear down a team, right? Pitt didn't look great at first, but over the time, they wore down Clemson because when defensively that your team, you let it one touchdown, you look on the sidelines, you're like, I don't know if they're going to score for us. It starts to wear on you. So I like the pick, man. Why not? What's Clemson? 0-7 against the spread?
Yeah, you're going bankrupt if you're betting Clemson, man. And I think that continues this week. I like Florida State. Give me the 10. Lexi cracking me up in the chat, man. Our guy Cease is like, I love Penn State. I'm hoping for an upset. And we are too, man. We love Penn State. Yeah. But Lexi's like, yeah, I'd love an upset over Ohio State too.
Of course
he would.
We all want them.
Yeah. Nobody wants Ohio State to win that's not Ohio State. But funny stuff. But Dave, let's get to your last pick, man. We got a couple minutes before we got to get out of here. Going to the Holy Land, BYU -2.5, taking on Brennan Armstrong and the Virginia Cavaliers. Very explosive offense in Virginia. You think they're going to be able to get going against BYU?
No, I do not. And then here's the deal. I mean, this is the Bronco Bowl. This is Bronco Mendenhall, the Virginia head coach, returning to BYU, Provo, Utah, where he was the head coach there previously. So he knows the place. He knows, what goes on. He's going to be pumped up to try and beat his former team. But I just think that's where it all stops. And listen, Virginia has been impressive. Like you said right away, Brandon Armstrong, their quarterback's probably third best quarterback in the ACC right now. And that's saying something because you got Hartman and you got Pickett that are just lighting it up. Armstrong's right there. Without them, he could be looking at ACC Player of the Year. That's how well they've been playing. They average over just about 40 points a game at 37.6, over 400 yards passing per game. They're on fire, but their defense is terrible. They allow about 27 points per game, and that's fortunate because they had a shutout early in the year versus FBS team. So it's pretty bad. And really where I think the key of this game is for me is that, you look at Virginia's wins. They won by 2 against Miami because Miami missed a 30-yard field goal at the end of the game. They beat Louisville by 1. They blow out Duke. Got it. Okay, whatever. 48-0. And then they had to come back against a Georgia Tech team that's just 48-40. As much as they're putting up points and they look solid, you got to go back to that Wake game early in the season when it was, I think they were favored and Wake just rolled them. I think when you see them play the better teams, they've really struggled. They got blown out by Wake and UNC, both by 20 in both those games. And now they're stepping up in competition. Really where I think this weighs in is they're not very good defensively against the run. BYU is a very good running team. You got Tyler Algier. He's got 11 TDs on the season, 800-plus yards, and that altitude there. By the fourth quarter, when that really starts kicking in, you haven't played there much. You're coming all the way from the East Coast. That running game, that physicality, I think BYU pulls away late. And I think they're able to win by about 7-8 points, cover this number, and win one for their new head coach, who's not named Bronco.
There you go. I love it. BYU cashing in. So there you have it, man. You got all our plays locked and loaded, to have a tremendous Saturday. Cannot wait. This is one of my favorite weeks in college football. We're really getting into the season of where we know these teams, we know who they are, and we're at all that non-conference junk. We're getting Michigan State. We're getting Penn State, Ohio State. We're getting the marquee matchups that we want to see. So, listen, we want to thank everybody for tuning in. We really appreciate it. No show next week. I'll be on vacation in Hawaii. We'll be back the following week, 11/13. So you guys are on your own. Got to make your own picks next week. But listen, we appreciate you. Join us back 11/13. We will be back with more picks to carry you through to the rest of the season. Thank you, everybody, for joining in. I'm Mark Drumheller for Dave Gleckner and Lexi. Good luck, everybody. Let's cash those bets, and may the odds forever be in your favor.